What's up? Welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to do a platinum transition into a full baby light with root shadow and how to make your platinum clients a little bit less maintenance. So let's go. Welcome to this video. I am really excited to be doing this color transformation. This is a model that I used previously, and I will actually link the video to her old hair, what we did before. Basically, she's been doing a bleach retouch for a long time now, and she's been letting her roots grow out and she wants to change it up. So we're actually going to be doing a full highlight, and then we're going to go back in between the foils, adding in kind of her natural color, dragging it down, and then we're going to do a root shadow and then do her pink overlay on top of it. It's a huge transformation, but it's really gonna help her hair grow out really naturally and become lower maintenance. So let me show you guys her before. All right, so this is our before. You guys can see we just did a bleach retouch on her last time, and then we refreshed her color, but now we're gonna be transitioning into a baby light with a root shadow and just really bringing down her natural color, giving her something a little bit more, less maintenance for her, and giving her some really healthy hair. She wants to really kind of grow out her natural color a little bit. So we're gonna do that, and I'm gonna show you guys a really easy technique for blending in somebody's, or transitioning somebody from a platinum retouch into a baby light with a shadow root, giving them something less maintenance. So let's go. All right, so I'm gonna be mixing up 25 volume, and I'm using Wella Blondeur. This is pretty much my go-to lightener. You guys will see me use it in pretty much all of my videos, but especially because we're gonna be doing some foil work on her, I definitely like to use Wella Blondeur. It works really, really well. So I'm gonna mix it up here, and then we're also going to use some Olaplex in there just to make sure that her hair stays really healthy. Obviously she has platinum hair to start with, so we got to make sure that we're saving her hair. The whole goal of her growing her hair out is to keep it healthy, so obviously we're going to use a little bit of Olaplex. So I'm just going to mix up here. We'll start with 25, and then we'll probably work our way up to 30, maybe 35 for the last little section, but we'll start here. All right, so I went through and sectioned out her hair, just kind of the top of the ear back, and I'm gonna be working on this bottom section. Now, basically I'm going to be doing the same pattern that I do for all of my full highlight patterns. So if you've seen one of those videos, this pattern is gonna be very similar. So we're gonna start right here, just around her hairline. This is gonna be really important because obviously she is used to seeing so much brightness around her face and around her hairline. So we wanna keep that brightness in there for her because it will be a pretty big change for her because she's, like I said, had platinum hair. So we want to make sure that we're easing her into this transition of going a little bit darker, bringing in her natural color. So I'm going to just basically start by doing our foils. Now, one thing that I will mention was with her, we did her hair about 10 weeks ago. And I always recommend for clients that are wanting to transition into their natural color to go as long as possible because it gives me more surface to paint. So you guys can see we have almost just like an inch, almost inch and a half of roots. So it allows me to get in there really good, and it's already bringing down their natural color. It's really difficult to do it when they only have about a half an inch of roots. So I will say that to my clients that, hey, we are gonna go through kind of an awkward phase where you have really bad roots for a couple weeks, but it makes my job a lot easier, and it really helps to transition them a lot easier. All right, so I'm just gonna continue around this hairline doing diagonal back sectioning. And like I said, this is really similar to my full highlight pattern. And I'm doing like highlights back here. I wouldn't call these baby lights because we do want to make sure that we are still getting a good amount of brightness in there. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to highlight her entire head, and then in between the foils, I'm going to drag down her natural color, and then we're going to do a little root shadow as well. So this is going to be a really seamless transition and really just help her natural hair grow out. So I actually will leave a little bit of space in between some of our foils. I won't go as tight as I normally do for a full highlight because the goal is to actually bring down her natural color. So I don't want to have just tons of blonde in there. It would almost look like we just did a platinum retouch. So I will leave a little bit more hair out, especially down here, but around her hairline, it's really important for me to get it nice and blonde so when she wears her hair up, it feels good. All right, so I'm gonna continue on this section. I'll do a couple more diagonal backs. We'll work on to the next side, and then we'll start working our way up the head. So I've done about 4 diagonal back sections on both sides, and now I'm down to this little area in the nape. You guys can see she's got a little bit of some broken baby hair, so I'm gonna be really gentle with this, but I do wanna make sure that we're getting them in there. So I'm just gonna do a little baby foil right here to make sure to blonde up these little baby hairs. So here's my little guy. And just being really gentle, of course. And of course we have Olaplex in there as well, but this is going to really, really help her hair. So I'm just going to continue to work up this section. So what we're gonna do is I'm going to do all the way up into her head, and then when we get up kind of to here, or almost right there, I will be switching up my pattern. So I'll show you guys what I do from there. So I've worked up till about middle of the back of her head, kind of to that first section where I'd sectioned it off. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna go up to her crown section, and I'm going to start doing my foils down to meet up with this section. Now, if you guys have watched any of my other highlighting videos, you know that I foil backwards. So this is your first video with me, or your first tutorial that you've ever watched with me of me doing highlights. I foil all of my highlights backwards. So what I like to do is I like to start kind of on the apex of the head, basically right where it starts to round out, and I section away the front. And what I do is I take my first section. Now you guys will notice that I don't section out the front and section out the back and section out the side. I just kind of go naturally where the hair is telling me to go, and just kind of based off of a feeling. That's how I do a lot of my color, that's how I do a lot of my cutting, and so if you watch a lot of my tutorials, you will see that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my foil and place it down, and you guys can see I'm actually foiling backwards instead of a traditional way of foiling down and foiling forward. So I like this method because it allows me to get a little bit closer into the root, I feel like. And so I'm going to just kind of paint in. For me, it's faster, and so I personally recommend trying it out. I don't necessarily think it works for everybody, especially if you learned a different way, but hey, we can always try different things and maybe it'll work better for you. So I'm gonna take my next section. That's gonna be hair that we leave out. And like I said, I am leaving a little bit more hair out than I traditionally would in a regular highlight. But again, the goal is to get her natural color to be brought down, so we don't need to go as tight in there. So I'm gonna continue down on this section until I meet up with my section that I just finished doing. So just keep watching along, and then when we get around to finishing that section, I'll show you guys what I'm doing next. Alright, so I just met up with our bottom section here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of hold the foil down, and then I'm just going to fold it up and just do this all the way till we get to the top.
So let me sing for you, like the birds in the mountains do, like a child who cries for you.
Alright, so now that we finished with this back section, I'm going to spin her around, and we're going to foil backwards, but standing in front of her. Alright, so now what I've done is I spun her around. I actually did do a few foils just real quick, just to kind of do this section back here because it's a little hard to see on camera. So what I'm going to do now is, you guys can see this is where she naturally kind of parts her hair somewhere in this area. So I'm wanting to make sure that I am getting hair from this side as well, so it doesn't just have it on the one side, because she does part her hair a little further over. So what I'm going to do is I'm just kind of leaving out a section and clipping it away back here, and then we're gonna go in with our foil, same thing, and just kind of foil backwards. Now sometimes I alternate with slices, with weaves. For her, I'm kind of doing a few different ones. She's got fine hair, so it's okay to do a few slices, but I'm just kind of doing what I feel like. And so we lock that foil in and go ahead and paint in our lightener. Now the nice thing is about doing highlights on a platinum retouch is you know exactly where to stop your lightener. There's nothing that is like low lights that you have to work through, so that is kind of nice. But all I'm going to do is I'm continuing up this mohawk section of her hair. Now like I said, I am leaving a little bit more hair out than I normally would in a regular highlight, but that's just because we don't need to, again, make her super, super blonde. So I'm going to continue on this mohawk section, and then we get around to the front, I'm going to show you guys what I'm doing there. so we are around her hairline, and one of the things that I want for her is to still have a really nice bright hairline because, again, like I said, she's transitioning to darker, but she's probably not used to it being super, super dark. So we are gonna go a little bit tighter in with these foils right here around the hairline, and I'm gonna kind of do them a little bit more like a baby light versus like a highlight like I've been doing the rest of the hair. Now, she does have a couple baby hairs on this side, so I might actually put those in a completely different foil just to make it easier and so that it's not getting caught up or getting pulled loose. So we'll do this foil first, and then I actually might separate those little baby hairs in the next foil. So I'm just going through, and again, another reason why I really like foiling backwards is because I can get in really tight and close into these baby hairs. It allows me to work really well. So again, it's something that works for me. Maybe it doesn't work for everybody, but it works really well for me. Okay, so I am gonna leave out these baby hairs on this side. I'm gonna tackle those in a separate foil, just because, again, I don't want them pulling too much. So we're gonna work with these little baby hairs, and these are almost a baby light on its own. We're gonna do one last little foil here, so we'll pull this out of the way. And I'm actually gonna use a small foil here because they're just really tiny, tiny baby lights or pieces right here. So I just took a foil and tore it in half. And this is gonna be my last little foil just so that it doesn't slip or anything like that. Getting right up in there. And kind of my goal with this piece right on here is probably we won't even do a root shadow on it. So again, that's why I want it to be super, super blended and something that's gonna grow out really nicely. So now that I've tackled that little guy, I'm going to now come over to these baby hairs, and I'm gonna also go back in with my little baby foil that I did, but I'm gonna foil it down so you guys can see right in here. And these little foils, again, just really help me to be really precise with my foiling right around the hairline and get in there really nice and clean without overlapping or anything like that. All right, so now I've kind of come over to the side here. We will leave this little piece out, and I'm gonna do another foil right here. Again, we probably won't be doing a root shadow right here around the hairline, so I do wanna make sure that we are keeping it really nice and soft and something that's gonna grow out really subtly. This is another reason why I do my highlights. You guys will see if you watch any of my other videos, I do really detailed hairlines, and it makes a huge difference on how it grows out for your clients. So it's adding a ton of value to their hair and really getting their hair to grow out really nicely. Okay, so now I'm gonna go around her hairline and I'm gonna do some diagonal back sections. We're gonna just do this little piece right here. I actually might even take a little bit less hair. These are really key important sections because we wanna make sure that we're keeping it super soft and subtle so that, again, it grows out really softly. So I'm gonna go in with a regular size foil here. You could do a small foil. For me, I like a regular size foil, but totally up to you on that one. Get these little baby guys. And basically this entire section, I'm going to be just doing diagonal back sections all the way till we reach all the way up into this corner. So I'm going to be mixing up her in-between foil color, and I'm going to be doing color-ons, and I'm going to be doing basically mostly 5N, but I am going to add in just a little bit of 7G and a little bit of 5BG because underneath her hair is that platinum color, so I do want to make sure that we are adding in just a little bit of warmth, and we are going to be doing a pink overlay on top of that, so no big deal, but I want it to be neutral, but then just a little bit of that warmth underneath there too. So 5BG, 7G added onto it. So about, for my ratios, I would say I did about 2/3 5N and then 1/3 equal parts of 5BG, 7G. And one thing I want to make note of is whenever you're mixing Goldwell color-ons in a bowl, you always want to make sure to whisk it to make sure that it's super mixed up and that it's really, like I said, just mixed up, there's no clumps or anything like that. One thing that they do sometimes recommend is actually putting it in a bottle, shaking it up, and then transferring it to a bowl. I don't think that's necessary, and I don't think you need to get rid of two things or dirty up two things, so I think just whisking it's fine. You just don't want to add in too much air when you're whisking it because then it can aerate it and can cause consistency issues. So I just whisk it up really good, and this should be the consistency of what it should look like. All right, so I mixed up that in-between color, and I am gonna just take a little bit of the Balayage Raw Color Care Acidic Milk Rinse. I'm gonna just put just a tiny bit into a bowl because I am gonna use this to kind of feather down the color. So we will use this just as like a little barrier. So I'll show you guys how I'm gonna use that. All right, so before I go in between her foils, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just kind of spritz down the hair that I'm gonna be working on, because sometimes what can happen is you could get like spottiness, and so that's another reason why I brought out the acidic milk rinse. But just adding a little bit of water, kind of the section that I'm working on those ends, kind of also helps make sure that you're not gonna get spottiness. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna start kind of in the front here, and I'm basically just gonna go in between the foils. I'm gonna start basically like this little third foil back, and we'll tackle that front section very last. But I'm just gonna barely go into her root area, apply the color, and just kind of feather it down. Now, what this is gonna do is it's going to really just give us that soft shadow kind of color, and I'm also gonna apply that little bit of the acidic milk rinse there, place the foil down, and this is just gonna really drag down her natural color and blur it all into the rest of her hair. So I'm just gonna continue down her entire head, going in between all the foils. All right, so I'm just finishing up the rest of in between the foils. Now, this process can be a little tricky. Sometimes it can feel a little awkward, and so you guys will see I've actually kind of placed foils around the head so that this hair isn't like laying down on already previously colored hair and stuff like that. So just work with it. Sometimes you may need to grab a coworker or somebody to maybe hold some foils for you, or just use regular foils as a barrier, because obviously you don't want to get the color on these ends here and cause spottiness. So that can be a really big issue. But what's really helped is by going in between the foils and then using that acidic milk rinse to kind of blend everything through. Really makes it smooth so that you don't get that spottiness. And you guys can even see, like here, now some of the colors kind of drag down. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just take my gloves and kind of smooth it out and then kind of wipe away any excess. And if you really felt like it was gonna be a problem, you could also spray it down with maybe just a little bit of water right there too. So that seems to work really well. It's gonna get that really nice blended look. But just know that this process can sometimes feel a little awkward, but that's totally normal. And give yourself time. Don't rush through it, because you would hate to have spotty pieces. So give yourself some time, make sure you're fully saturating it, protecting the areas that you need to, and yeah, just go through it really kind of meticulously as you're doing this, because nothing's worse than at the end having a bunch of spotty pieces. So I'm just gonna kind of finish this up here, and then we'll let her process through. Another thing I wanted to make mention too is if you are gonna be doing this, make sure to mix your lightener a little bit on the slower side. So for instance, normally for her, if I was doing just like highlights on her, I would have mixed up 30 volume, but we did 25 and just did 30 volume on the last couple foils, because I know that this is gonna take a little bit more time, and I want this in between foil or in between color to process. So make sure to mix up it slower so that you have time for it to process, time for you to apply it, and you're not feeling like, oh shoot, I gotta rinse out the foils. So that's just one thing I wanted to make note of. So now I'm gonna let her process, and we will finish it up there. All right, so I went through and pulled her foils, we rinsed her, and I am gonna do a shampoo, as you guys can see. And the reason why is because we went through and put that color in between. I wanna make sure that it's really rinsed, and so it's not muddying up her ends. You guys can see, especially if it was a platinum, you might get that kind of darker ends, which is totally fine, because most people that are doing a transition are gonna be a little bit darker anyways. But I just like to go through and shampoo it out, make sure that there's no excess color hanging out in there. So that's just my personal thing. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to rinse it, and we're gonna go ahead and bring her back over to my chair and do her root shadow color. And then we're gonna go do her pink overlay. So if it was a platinum, I would do a toner, but for her, we're gonna do a pink overlay because that's the color she has. So just wanted to catch you guys up with the process of what we've been doing. All right, so I'm gonna mix up her root shadow. I am gonna do Shades EQ because I personally just like it more for root shadows. So I'm gonna do equal parts 5N and 6NB. And like I said, I am gonna take her over to my chair to apply this. And then I'm also going to be using the gloss to gel processing solution. So this one's just a little bit thicker than the traditional developer, and it helps with root shadows when you apply it. So we're gonna mix this up and go apply it at my station. All right, so we rinsed her out. I actually did do Olaplex on her just to kind of help detangle her hair a little bit, and then we rinsed that out as well. So now we're back at the chair, and I'm going to be applying her root shadow. I am gonna start in the back, and then we're gonna work our way towards the front, and I am gonna leave just that little piece right out around her hairline. So I like to use the Wow Comb. That's what this comb is right here. It's called the Wow Comb, and this actually helps me comb down and melt down some of that root shadow without dragging down the color. Versus a traditional comb like this would drag down the color and you'd get spots in here. The Wow Comb won't do that because it's got this little roller inside. So I always use this when I'm applying a root shadow so that it doesn't drag down. So I'm gonna just kind of start down here. I'm really barely gonna be tapping it in there. I'm just gonna be doing about less than an inch. Of course, it'll kind of go down a little bit more further, but she isn't used to having this dark hair, so I don't want to have it like go down too far. But we're just going to be kind of softening some of those highlight lines so that it does grow out softer. So I'm going to go through, apply this to her head, and we'll let it process probably about 10-15 minutes. I just kind of want to keep an eye on it, but I'll let you guys know. All right, so what I've been doing is I have been pulling the section from above. So instead of what I used to do would be I would apply it all and then I would bring it back down. And what that would sometimes happen would you'd get some spottiness in here. So what I've been doing is I've just been doing about 1/2 inch sections and then just kind of painting it on. And you guys can see with Shades EQ, one thing I really like about it is I can just kind of lay the color in, and then I'll just do a little bit like 1/2 inch kind of guy right there. And then go through and just kind of, again, apply that down. So I'm not having to really mess with the hair or cause it to go back and forth. So this is a really great way so that you're not getting any bleed marks or things like that. This is kind of a new technique that I've been playing around with. I've seen some other people do it, and I was like, that's brilliant. Why am I doing it backwards and making my life harder? So the one thing you do want to be sure with this little technique is you're doing just really fine sections. So you're not taking too thick and making sure to not saturate. So you guys can see they're kind of just like baby hairline sections, and then I'm just able to kind of dab it in there. Now, once I finish with the whole section, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through with my Wow Comb and just comb it all through just to make sure that all the hair is laying nicely, laying really well. And you guys will notice that I did leave out that little front hairline section because I am just barely going to tap that in there. So here's our finished section now, and I'm going to take this Wow Comb and just comb it through and just make sure that all the hair is really getting saturated in there. And again, another reason why I like this is you guys can see there's no like spottiness or hair being pulled down. So that works really well. And then we're gonna leave these pieces out. I will just go through and tap it, but just for like the last 5 minutes. So this back section has been on for about, I would say maybe 5-10 minutes. We'll let this process for just a little bit longer, and then we'll go through and just tap around the front. All right, so we went through and just kind of rough dried her, but you guys can see real quick, I just want you guys to see the blend before we apply the pink, and obviously this isn't the best lighting, but you guys can see just how beautiful that blend looks. So if we were to like leave her hair platinum, if that's what she wanted, this would just be a really good in-between step, but I just wanted to share with you guys how beautifully it blends, and that's why it's so important to go through and do the root shadow, do the second one, because it blends so nicely. She still gets that nice beautiful money piece in the front, but we're getting a beautiful blend through her roots, and it's gonna grow out so beautifully. One thing I was telling her too was we didn't have to do that second root shadow because we are applying pink over it. We could have just done the pink overlay and it would have worked, but I know for her that she's gonna have that pink fade out a little bit, and we wanted to keep it as low maintenance as possible and help it last as long. So that's why I went through and did that second root shadow. You guys can see it just kind of barely peeking through with the Shades EQ. It's a great root shadow. We left it on for about 15 minutes. So now we're gonna apply her pink to pretty rough dried hair and get it going. All right, so I'm just gonna be applying, I am gonna be applying roots to ends. We're doing the same color all throughout, so usually I like to just go through, apply it to the roots for the section, and then I'll go back through and apply it to the roots. So I'm just literally gonna apply this all throughout her hair. For the formula, I didn't show you guys me mixing it up because it's very similar to the rose gold formula I use in all my other videos. So if you wanna see that formula, go check out one of my other videos that uses the rose gold formula, but it's basically Joico Metallics, Mauve Quartz, Joico Metallics Bronze, a little bit of Pulp Riot Cupid, some Pulp Riot Blush, some lemon in there because I didn't want it to go too purpley. I wanted to keep it on the warmer side. So just kind of a mixture of a bunch of stuff. Also too, one thing I am taking into consideration with her hair is that now all of her pink that we had previously in there has pretty much faded out, and you guys can see it's kind of ashy. So I added a little bit more lemon, a little bit more of that yellow to kind of counteract some of the ashiness, give her a little bit more golden tones in there, and just make sure that it wasn't gonna go too purpley on us, because that's not the goal. So just something to consider. But yeah, you guys can go check that out, my other rose gold formulas, just to see, or my other rose gold videos of my hair and the clients that I've done, to see the exact mixing process. But that's what I do here. So I'm just gonna keep applying it through, making sure to really saturate it all the way through, and we'll show you guys what we're up to. All right, so I went through and rinsed her hair, and I did do a quick little shampoo with the Color Care shampoo. I like the shampoo because it's not super cleansing, especially for something like this. So I did want to do just a quick little shampoo on her. And now I'm gonna go seal her hair with the Balayage Raw Color Care Acidic Milk Rinse. We're gonna let this sit on for about 10 minutes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to wring her hair as dry as possible, and then apply this really generously to her hair. So basically what this is doing is it's sealing in the cuticle of the hair, so it's kind of closing down the cuticle, especially since we did so many processes on it, and it's really gonna seal in this kind of pinky rose gold color. So I think it's a great thing, especially following a Vivid service, but typically I do use this service following any lightening service. So I love it, and it works amazing. All right, and here is our final result. You guys, I love how it turned out. It's so beautiful, so blended, and this is gonna grow out so nicely for her with just so much less maintenance, and it's really gonna keep her hair really healthy. So we did her color just a little bit on the darker side just so it has room to fade out, but I'm obsessed with how it turned out. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was a longer transformation, quite a few steps, but I am obsessed with how it turned out. I loved how natural her root looked. It's going to grow out so seamlessly, and a lot of times I used to think back in the day, why would you do highlights, then do a root shadow, then do all of this stuff on top of it? It seems like a lot of steps, but in reality, this is gonna be the thing that helps her hair grow out so seamlessly. So if you have clients that are looking to transition out of a bleach retouch or a transition, get away from doing platinum hair, this is gonna be a really great option for them. You can do this with blonde hair, with colored hair, whatever it looks like. It's really a great transformation, and it's an easy technique that you can use. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I hope you learned something, and if this is our first time hanging out, it's your first video with me, make sure to hit the subscribe button below, because I do lots of videos like this, and obviously check out my other videos because we do tons of techniques like this. Also, if you haven't come over to Instagram and said hi or told me that you watch my videos, please come over and do that. I know that I say that in every video, but it's true. I really want to get to know the people who are watching my videos, and I love getting to see who's tuning in from around the world. So please come over to Instagram, my link is down below, and say hello. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you guys next time.